She was barely 12, sitting in her wheelchair by the airport window, staring at the planes with eyes that carried too many unspoken stories. People passed by without a glance, until a single dad stopped, knelt beside her, and quietly asked, "Why is she all alone?" What happened next will leave you speechless. Before we begin, if stories of kindness and courage touch your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It helps us share more stories that matter. It was a rainy afternoon at the airport, the kind where the glass windows were streaked with thin trails of water, and the hum of rolling suitcases and murmured announcements filled the air like background music to hundreds of separate stories. Among the bustling travelers, a young girl sat near gate 23, her small frame in a wheelchair, dressed in a pale blue sweater 2 sizes too big and a pair of pink sneakers that had clearly been loved for a long time. Her hair was tied into a loose braid, but a few strands had escaped, sticking gently to her cheeks from the damp air. She sat quietly, hands resting on her lap, gazing at the planes outside as if each one carried a dream she could almost touch but never quite reach. People walked past her without noticing, too wrapped up in their own schedules, their own departures and arrivals. No one asked her if she was okay. No one wondered why she, clearly too young to be traveling alone, was sitting there without a guardian in sight. That was until Ethan Parker, a 35-year-old single father, dragging his battered carry-on with his 6-year-old son, Noah, trailing behind, noticed her. Ethan wasn't the kind of man who usually meddled in other people's affairs. Years in construction work had made him tired, quiet, and often too focused on making ends meet to pay attention to strangers' stories. But something about this girl, the way she sat so still, the faint sadness in her eyes, tugged at something deep inside him. Noah, noticing her too, tugged at his father's sleeve and whispered, "Dad, why is she all alone?" That simple question was all it took for Ethan to stop in his tracks. He walked toward her slowly, not wanting to startle her, and knelt down to her eye level. "Hey there," he said gently, his voice low so as not to attract unnecessary attention. "I'm Ethan, and this is my son, Noah. We were just wondering, are you waiting for someone?" The girl hesitated, glancing briefly at him before lowering her gaze again. Her voice was soft, almost too quiet to hear over the airport noise. "My dad's coming. I think. He's busy." Ethan's eyes searched hers for a moment. There was something fragile there, not just shyness, but the heaviness of someone who's learned to expect too little from the world. He noticed the way her fingers fidgeted with the edge of her sweater, how she glanced toward the arrival screens every few seconds as if clinging to the hope that the person she was waiting for would appear. "Do you want us to sit with you until he gets here?" Ethan offered, his tone casual but warm. She shrugged slightly, not answering directly, but Noah plopped himself down in the empty seat beside her anyway, pulling out a small toy car from his pocket. "I'm Noah," he said proudly. "This is Lightning McQueen. He's really fast. Do you like cars?" The faintest smile touched her lips. "Yeah. I guess." Ethan sat on her other side, keeping an eye out for anyone who might be searching for her, but no one came. Minutes turned into nearly an hour, and the girl's phone, an older model with a cracked screen, buzzed once. She read the message quickly, then set it face down on her lap. Ethan caught a glimpse of it, running late. Wait there. No name. No explanation. Just that. "What's your name?" Ethan asked after a while. She hesitated again, as if weighing whether she could trust him. "Lily," she said finally. "It's nice to meet you, Lily," he replied. "Do you travel a lot?" She shook her head. "First time. My dad, he's important. He works a lot. I was supposed to come with him from New York, but he had meetings. So I flew by myself." Ethan's chest tightened at the thought, a young girl, paralyzed, navigating an airport alone. "That must have been scary," he said softly. She gave a small shrug, as though she didn't want to admit it. Noah, oblivious to the tension, chattered on about his toys and school, drawing her into his little world. Bit by bit, Lily's shoulders relaxed, and she even laughed once when Noah made his toy car crash dramatically into Ethan's shoe. Still, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Over the next hour, he bought them all hot chocolate from the nearby cafe, claiming he had extra even though money was tight. Lily thanked him politely, wrapping both hands around the warm cup, her fingers trembling slightly. That's when he noticed the faint scar on her wrist, thin, pale, and old. He didn't ask. He knew some questions had answers you weren't ready to hear. Time kept passing, and the crowd around the gate changed as flights departed and arrived. Still, no one came for Lily. She checked her phone again, and this time her expression faltered just enough for Ethan to see the disappointment before she masked it. "Do you want me to call your dad for you?" Ethan asked gently. She shook her head. "He's busy, he'll come." But her voice lacked conviction. It wasn't until nearly 2 hours later that a tall man in an expensive suit appeared, scanning the area until his eyes fell on Lily. He strode over, his phone still pressed to his ear, and without so much as a hello, began pushing her wheelchair toward the exit. "Thanks," he muttered to Ethan without meeting his eyes, as though speaking to a stranger who had merely returned a lost item. Lily glanced back at Ethan and Noah, giving a small wave before disappearing into the crowd. Ethan stood there for a long moment, feeling an unexpected ache in his chest. Something told him this wasn't the end of the story, that the quiet sadness in Lily's eyes, the way she had been left waiting alone for hours, was just the tip of something deeper. And he was right. But for now, all he could do was watch the automatic doors slide shut behind her and wonder why the world could be so quick to overlook the ones who needed it most. A week later, Ethan was at the grocery store with Noah when he heard a familiar voice call his name. Turning, he saw Lily, this time without the airport crowd, wearing a soft yellow dress and sitting in her wheelchair beside a woman in a charcoal blazer. The woman's posture was straight, her gaze sharp, and her presence drew quiet attention from everyone nearby. She extended her hand to Ethan. "I'm Claire Morgan," she said. "Lily's mother." Ethan blinked, confused. "We met, at the airport, right?" Claire's eyes softened slightly. "Lily told me everything. How you and your son stayed with her for hours, when she was alone." Ethan hesitated, recalling the suited man, her father, he assumed. "Your husband," Claire cut in gently. "Ex-husband. He's her father, yes, but he hasn't been there for her the way she needs. I travel a lot for work. I'm a CEO, and sometimes I forget that the most important meetings aren't in boardrooms." She looked down at Lily, then back at Ethan. "You reminded me." Lily beamed at Noah, who had already knelt to show her his latest toy car. Claire continued, "I wanted to thank you properly. Not just for watching her, but for making her feel seen." Ethan shook his head. It wasn't a big deal. She just looked like she could use a friend. Claire smiled faintly. It was a big deal to her. She paused before adding, "I run a foundation for children with disabilities. We've been looking for people with genuine hearts to help us build programs. People like you." Ethan stared at her, stunned. His life had been paycheck to paycheck for years, yet here was an opportunity born from a simple act of kindness. Before he could answer, Lily said softly, "I told Mom you're the kind of person who doesn't walk past someone alone." Those words hit him harder than he expected. Maybe the world needed more people who stopped, even when it wasn't their problem. Maybe he could be that person. Standing there in the grocery aisle, Ethan realized that moment at the airport hadn't been chance. It was the start of something bigger, for him, for Lily, and maybe even for the way he saw the world. And to those watching this story now, if it touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe, so more stories of kindness and second chances can find their way into someone's day, because sometimes, all it takes is asking one simple question: why is she all alone?